Good morning. Today we're going to continue talking about proportional relationships, but specifically we're going to talk about unit rates, which you've seen in some of the questions on MathSpace. And we're going to dig deeper into the idea of the constant of proportionality. And all this with the goal of being able to use an equation to represent a proportional relationship. And the general form of the equation is this: y equals kx. And I'll tell you what each of those variables means in a second. Okay? So let's get started. And I want to start with an example. In this one, you can say that I run 15 miles every 4 weeks. So every 4 weeks I run 15 miles. So I made this table here. Obviously, if I spent 0 weeks, then I'm not going to be able to run anything. And so in 0 weeks, I run 0 miles. In 4 weeks, I run 15 miles. But what about the rest? How much do I run in 1 week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 12, and 100 weeks? And a lot of you are thinking, okay, if I run 15 miles every 4 weeks, then to get to 1 week, or the distance I run in 1 week, I just need to divide 15 by 4. And that's absolutely correct. So we have 15 miles, I'm just going to write mi, divided by 4 weeks. This will give us how much I run in 1 week. And that is something called the unit rate. And I'll get back to that, but let's divide first. So I have 15 miles per 4 weeks, or divided by 4 weeks. And if I divide 15 by 4, and so my answer is 3.75 miles per 1 week, right? Not 4 weeks, but per week. And once I have my denominator as 1, meaning it's 1 week, it's not more than 1 week, it's just 1 week, I now have what's called a unit rate. So my official unit rate here is 3.75 miles per week. And so this unit rate, or the definition of it, it shows me, so it's showing me how fast my quantity is changing. Every week, basically, I'm going to be running 3.75 miles. And so I can now start filling out my table. And so for every week, I can just multiply it by this unit rate. So times whatever the UR, let's say UR unit rate is. But notice here that I have units, right? I have miles per week. In the table, I don't necessarily need to put the new units because I have them here in the titles of each row. So 1 times 3.75 is 3.75. 2 times 3.75, if you want to do it really quickly, is 7.5. Notice that I have 2 decimal places. That's why I put the decimal point right here. So it's 7.5. 3 times 3.75, I can just add 3. So it's going to be 10.5 plus 0.75, which is 11.25. And then 15. And then 12, I can simply do the same thing. 3.75 multiplied by 12. Again, 2 decimal places, so my decimal point goes here, so this is 45. And then in 100, that's easy. I just move the decimal point twice to the right. So in 100 weeks, I would run 375 miles. So when I ask for a unit rate, I'm asking for a number, a constant, and the units that I'm using. So 3.75 miles per week. Whereas if I'm just asking for a constant of proportionality, I just care about the number, which would be, in this case, just 3.75. Okay? Now let's look at a graph. It's the same example, but instead of a table, I'm using a graph. Again, it's miles ran. This time I actually just plotted all the points. And so you're looking at the 1 here, and you can see that the dot is right between the 3 and the 4, but not exactly. It's closer to the 4. Same for the 2. This looks like it's right halfway between the 7 and the 8. The 3 you can't tell, but the 4 is exactly on 15. As you can see, the 4 is exactly on 15. So I already know that this point is 4, 15 here. So I can use this point to find my unit rate. I can divide, and I would get, just like we did last time, 3.75. And using that, I can go to every point and either check if it's correct by multiplying, just like we did back here in the table. So is it at 3.75 for the 1? And I would say, yes, it is. It's very close to that. For the 2, is it at 7.5? And so for the 2, it's right between 7 and 8. So yes, it works. And so you can use a graph or a table to either get the constant of proportionality or the unit rate, and to make sure that this relationship is proportional. And the best way to do that on a graph is to just try to draw a line. I'm using the ruler here. I'm going to try to draw a line between the first point and the last point. And I want to see if, there we go. I want to see if all the points are lined up. And they are. You can see them right now. They're all lined up. And if I start drawing the line here, you can see that it goes through all of them. Okay. Now, how can we represent this with an equation? How can we represent this with an equation? My unit rate, I said, is 3.75 miles per week. My constant of proportionality is 3.75. They're the same, right? But notice there's no units here. And I have this equation, y equals kx. Now, going back to the table, if I say that the weeks are my x value, let me do this in green, and the miles are my y value, notice that every time I'm multiplying the x value by my unit rate to get my y value. So here, x is 1, x times 3.75 is 3.75. In week 2, x equals 2. I multiplied by the same number to get 7.5. In week 12, x is equal to 12. Here, x equals 12. And y, the 45, y is just equal to 3.75 times 12. Okay? So notice that they all follow the same pattern. And so if we were to make an equation for this relationship, it would just be simply, let's do y equals, and then I'm going to put my constant here, 3.75x there. So I can use this equation. I can say, if I want to say how many miles do I run in 20 weeks, right? I didn't ask about that. That's not in the table and it's not in the graph. But I can use this equation to calculate it. So in 20 weeks, I can just say y. Again, just a reminder, y here is the distance in miles. Distance in miles equals my constant, 3.75, times x. X here is 20. This is my x, because x here would be number of weeks. Number of weeks. Okay? So actually instead of x, I'll just write 20. And so 3.75 times 20 we can get is, so y equals, and then we can just really go back to the table if we want. 2 times 3.75 is 7.5. So 20 would just be 75. Y equals 75. And so I easily got the distance I'm going to run, and I know in 20 weeks I would run 75 miles. All right, that's it for today. You have a similar math-based assignment, but it's a bit more challenging, and it's going to involve you writing out equations more often. Again, if you have any questions, take screenshots of the problem that you're on and email it to me so I can best help you. Otherwise, I'll see you at some point. Bye.